Is tech recruitment completely broken in 2025? Mike, after reading through hundreds of job seeker stories and the latest industry reports, I'm honestly questioning everything I thought I knew about hiring.
Same here. Let's start with what we're seeing on the ground. Sarah, you've been coaching job seekers. What's their biggest frustration right now?
The ghosting is absolutely brutal. I'm seeing qualified candidates, people who could literally do these jobs in their sleep, getting complete radio silence after interviews. One of my clients described it perfectly. I'm applying to roles I've literally already done and getting ghosted like I'm trying to text my ex at 2 in the morning.
That's painfully accurate. But here's what's wild. From the hiring side, we're drowning. One recruiter told me they received over 1,500 resumes for a single position. When you're dealing with that volume, the human element just disappears.
And that's where AI comes in, right? The 2025 hiring trends show that 74% of employers are struggling to find skilled tech workers, so they're turning to AI-powered recruitment systems that can reduce time to hire by 40%.
You are listening to Merge Conflicts Real Dev Talk, where passionate developers tackle code, culture, and everything in between.
But here's the problem. These systems are screening out qualified humans.
Exactly. We've created this weird arms race where candidates are using AI to write resumes that will get past AI screening systems. It's bots talking to bots, and the actual humans, both candidates and hiring managers, are getting lost in the process.
I spoke with a software engineer last week who spent hours tailoring his resume with AI tools only to get an automated rejection within minutes. He said it felt like shouting into a void. How do we fix this disconnect?
It starts with acknowledging the problem. Companies need to audit their AI tools to ensure they're not filtering out talent based on overly rigid criteria.
And it's not just about AI. Recruiters need to prioritize communication, even if it's just a quick note to say the role's been filled. That small act can restore some dignity to the process. Let's talk about the experience paradox that's driving everyone crazy. Mike, you've seen those job postings. Entry-level role must have 10 years experience, a Nobel Prize, and be available to work weekends, holidays, and maybe your own funeral.
That quote from the LinkedIn post we read really hit home. But seriously, this is a real problem. Companies want the perfect candidate who can hit the ground running, but they're not willing to invest in training or development.
And it's creating this impossible catch-22. New grads can't get experience because no one will hire them without experience. Meanwhile, experienced professionals are being told they're overqualified, which, by the way, I didn't even know was a thing until recently.
The skills-based hiring trend is supposed to fix this. Instead of requiring specific degrees or years of experience, companies should focus on whether someone can actually do the job. But in practice, most companies are still stuck in the old mindset.
And here's what's really frustrating. I've seen candidates who meet every single requirement on a job posting get rejected with, "Sorry, we went with someone more qualified." At what point do we admit the system is fundamentally broken?
It's like companies are chasing unicorns. I heard about a startup that rejected a candidate with 8 years of relevant experience because they didn't know a specific framework that could be learned in a week. That's not hiring. That's gatekeeping.
And it's pushing talent away. A client of mine, a brilliant coder, gave up on tech and started a small business because the job search felt so futile. We're losing potential because of these unrealistic expectations.
Let's dig deeper into the AI impact. Sarah, the research shows we're moving from the deploy phase of AI in hiring to the reshape phase in 2025. What does that actually mean for job seekers?
It means the game has completely changed. In the deploy phase, companies were just experimenting with AI tools. Now, in the reshape phase, they're fundamentally rethinking their entire hiring workflow. LinkedIn's new AI-powered recruiter tools promise to save 20 hours a week by automating job descriptions, outreach, and application management.
But here's the dark side. 54% of tech hiring managers expect layoffs in 2025, and 45% say employees whose roles can be replaced by AI are most likely to be let go. So we're using AI to hire people while simultaneously firing people because of AI.
It's creating this bizarre situation where job seekers are competing against AI for jobs while also trying to game AI systems to get hired. One person mentioned getting asked to opt out of having AI looking at your resume, but then The AI scans for keywords, and if those keywords aren't there, you're automatically disqualified.
And the human cost is real. I read about someone who's been searching for a year, applied to over 100 jobs on LinkedIn, and hasn't even been shortlisted despite having a perfect CV match. That's not a skills problem, that's a system problem.
It's not just resumes either. AI-driven video interviews are now common, where algorithms analyze your facial expressions and tone. A candidate told me she was rejected because her enthusiasm score was too low, despite acing the technical questions. How do you even prepare for that?
You can fully prepare, but candidates are now practicing with AI mock interviews to boost those scores. It's another layer of complexity in an already broken process.
And it's not just candidates suffering. The reliance on AI is making the hiring process feel like a black box, where even hiring managers don't fully understand why certain candidates are filtered out.
Let's be fair to recruiters for a moment. I used to be one, and the job has become nearly impossible. One HR professional shared that they're caught in the AI crossfire because employers are using AI to screen for the perfect candidate, while candidates are using AI to reconstruct their resumes.
Right, and it's creating this weird dynamic where the best candidates, the ones with heart, as one recruiter put it, are getting overlooked because they're not gaming the system.
The volume problem is real, too. When you're getting thousands of applications, how do you provide that human touch? But here's what I don't understand. If 85% of roles already have an internal or referral candidate, why are we even posting them publicly?
That's the ghost job phenomenon. Some estimates suggest 90% of job ads are fake. They're either CV collectors or ghost job ads to make the company look like they're expanding.
That's not just broken, that's borderline fraudulent.
And it's creating this massive waste of human energy. People are spending 1 to 2 hours per application customizing resumes, writing cover letters, researching companies, only to apply for jobs that don't actually exist.
A recruiter friend told me they're pressured to keep postings open even after the role's filled just to build a talent pipeline. Meanwhile, candidates are left hanging, thinking they're still in the running.
It's exhausting for recruiters, too. They're juggling unrealistic expectations from hiring managers while trying to maintain some semblance of fairness for candidates. Something's gotta give.
Sarah, let's talk about the human impact here. The stories we've read are heartbreaking. People losing their homes, exhausting their retirement savings, dealing with mental health issues, all because they can't get a job despite being qualified.
One person shared that they've been working in IT for 25 years and have never seen it this bad. They've been out of work for a year, chewed through their retirement, and are struggling to pay their mortgage. That's someone with a quarter-century of experience who can't find work.
And it's not just individual stories. The psychological impact is massive. People are describing the job search process as debilitating, stressful, and often outright degrading. When did looking for work become this dehumanizing?
The lack of feedback is particularly cruel. People are going through multiple rounds of interviews, sometimes 3 or 4 stages, and then getting ghosted. No explanation, no closure, just silence. It's basic human decency to at least say thanks, but no thanks.
One person mentioned that their parents taught them better manners, and that really struck me. We've somehow normalized being rude to job seekers in a way that would be unacceptable in any other context.
I've had clients who've started doubting their self-worth after months of rejections. One said, "I feel like I'm begging for a chance to contribute and nobody cares." That kind of despair takes a toll.
It's pushing some to leave tech entirely. A data scientist I know switched to teaching because the job search was so soul-crushing. We're losing talent because of this system.
Let's address the skills gap narrative. Companies keep saying they can't find qualified candidates, but we're seeing incredibly qualified people unable to get jobs. What's really going on here?
I think there's a fundamental mismatch between what companies say they want and what they actually need. The demand for AI engineers, cybersecurity specialists, cloud architects, and software developers is rising rapidly, but companies are still using outdated hiring criteria.
Exactly. They want someone who's done the exact same job at the exact same company with the exact same tech stack. There's no room for transferable skills or learning on the job. One person mentioned being told they don't have finance experience after making it to the final interview stage, something that could have been checked from their resume.
And here's what's crazy. 76% of tech hiring leaders admit there's potential to upskill or reskill employees slated for layoffs. So we know people can learn, but we're not willing to invest in that learning.
The rise of skills-based hiring is supposed to address this. Instead of focusing on degrees or specific experience, companies should evaluate whether someone can actually do the work. But most organizations are still stuck in the credential checking mindset.
It's also about speed. Companies want instant expertise because project timelines are so tight, but that ignores the fact that even perfect candidates need onboarding to understand company-specific systems.
And candidates are adapting. One engineer I coach learned a new framework in 2 weeks just to pass a technical screen, only to find the company didn't even use it in production. That's a waste of everyone's time.
Sarah, let's talk about how remote work is affecting tech hiring. The data shows that employees who work remotely are 22% more likely to be let go during layoffs, while those who work in the office are 27% more likely to be retained.
That's fascinating and concerning. Remote work was supposed to open up opportunities, but it seems like it's creating new forms of bias. Companies are prioritizing physical presence over actual performance.
And it's particularly weird in tech, where remote work has been normalized for years. If anything, tech workers have proven they can be productive from anywhere. But now there's this push back to the office that feels more about control than productivity.
It's also limiting the talent pool. If you're only hiring people who can work in your specific location, you're missing out on incredible talent. The gig economy in tech is rising partly because people want that flexibility.
Speaking of the gig economy, that might be one solution to this broken system. Instead of trying to find the perfect full-time employee, companies could work with specialized contractors for specific projects.
But even gig work has its challenges. I've seen freelancers struggle to get consistent contracts because companies use the same AI tools to filter gig applications, demanding hyper-specific skills.
And remote workers face extra scrutiny. A study showed remote candidates are judged more harshly on soft skills, like communication, because hiring managers can't see them in person.
Mike, we've been focusing on the U.S. market, but this seems to be a global problem. We're seeing similar complaints from the UK, South Africa, and other countries.
Right. One person from the UK mentioned being out of contract for months despite 30 years of software development experience. And someone from South Africa described a particularly challenging situation where experience and qualifications aren't being valued appropriately.
It suggests this isn't just a local market issue, it's a fundamental shift in how hiring works globally. The combination of AI, economic uncertainty, and changing work patterns is creating similar problems everywhere.
And the solutions need to be global too. If we're competing in a global talent market, we need hiring practices that work across cultures and time zones.
In India, for example, candidates face intense competition due to the sheer volume of tech graduates. One engineer told me they applied to 200 jobs and only got 3 interviews, all of which ended in ghosting.
In Australia, I heard similar stories. A cloud architect with 15 years of experience was told they needed certifications for tools they'd already mastered on the job. It's the same rigid mindset worldwide.
Let's address the elephant in the room, age discrimination. Several people mentioned being closer to retirement and unable to get callbacks, or being told they need to be under 40 and willing to accept the salary of a 20-year-old.
This is particularly problematic in tech, where there's this myth that older workers can't keep up with new technologies. But experience has value. Someone who's been through multiple technology cycles understands patterns and can avoid common pitfalls.
And it's economically wasteful. We're discarding decades of experience because of age bias. Meanwhile, companies complain about skills shortages. It doesn't make sense.
The irony is that many of these older workers are the ones who built the systems that younger workers are now maintaining.
Mike, let's pivot to how candidates can navigate this AI-driven hiring mess. What strategies are working for job seekers in 2025?
One thing I'm hearing is to treat your resume like an SEO project. Use job description keywords strategically, but don't just stuff them in. AI systems are getting smarter at detecting authenticity, so balance machine readability with human appeal.
That's key. I coach clients to mirror the job postings language for skills and tools, but also to tell a story about their impact. For example, instead of just listing Python, say, built a Python-based data pipeline that reduced processing time by 30%. Humans read that too.
Another tactic is bypassing AI altogether. Reach out directly to hiring managers via LinkedIn or email. A warm introduction from a mutual connection can get your resume past the bots and onto a real person's desk.
And don't sleep on open source contributions or personal projects. A GitHub portfolio showpiecing real code can speak louder than a resume. One client got hired after a recruiter stumbled on their public project solving a niche problem.
It's also about persistence. The data shows candidates who apply to 50 to 100 roles have a higher success rate than those who apply to just 10. It's a numbers game, unfortunately, but targeted applications beat spray and pray.
And consider upskilling strategically. Free platforms like Coursera or edX offer AI and cloud computing courses that can boost your resume's keyword match without breaking the bank.
Sarah, not every company's getting it wrong. Are there any bright spots in tech hiring we can point to?
Absolutely. Some companies are rethinking their approach. Take GitLab, for example. They've gone all in on skills-based hiring, using async interviews and practical coding tests to evaluate candidates, regardless of their background or location.
That's refreshing. I read about a mid-sized fintech in Canada that's tackled ghosting head-on. They implemented a policy where every applicant gets a response within 2 weeks, even if it's a templated no thanks. Candidates love the transparency.
And then there's a startup in Austin that's investing in upskilling. They hired junior developers with strong fundamentals and put them through a 6-month boot camp tailored to their tech stack. Their retention rate is through the roof.
These examples show it's possible to hire well, even in a broken system. It's about prioritizing people over process and being willing to challenge the status quo.
Okay, we've identified the problems. Let's talk solutions. What would actually fix this broken system?
First, transparency. Companies need to be honest about whether jobs actually exist. If 85% of roles are filled internally, stop posting them publicly. It's wasting everyone's time.
Second, human feedback. Even a templated response is better than ghosting. People deserve to know why they weren't selected, especially after multiple interview rounds.
Third, skills-based assessment. Instead of keyword matching, actually test whether someone can do the job. Pair programming sessions, practical exercises, real-world problem solving.
Fourth, realistic job requirements. Stop asking for 10 years of experience for entry-level roles. Be honest about what the job actually requires versus what would be nice to have.
And fifth, invest in training. If someone has 80% of the skills you need and demonstrates learning ability, hire them and train them on the remaining 20%.
Sarah, let's zoom out. How are broader economic trends shaping this hiring crisis, and could policy play a role in fixing it?
The economy's a big factor, with tech layoffs up 30% in 2025 due to overhiring post-pandemic. Companies are cautious. They're hoarding cash and hiring only for safe roles, which narrows the talent pool.
And inflation squeezing budgets. A report I read said 60% of tech firms are cutting training programs to save costs, which worsens the skills mismatch. It's a vicious cycle.
On the policy side, some countries are stepping up. Germany is investing in tech apprenticeships, pairing candidates with companies for hands-on training. It's reduced their tech unemployment rate by 15%.
That's promising. In the U.S., there's talk of tax incentives for companies that upskill workers, but it's stuck in Congress. Policy could nudge companies to invest in people instead of chasing unicorns. Let's wrap up with practical advice. Sarah, what would you tell someone who's struggling in this market right now?
First, don't take it personally. The system is broken, not you. I've seen incredibly talented people get rejected for ridiculous reasons.
Second, diversify your approach. Don't just rely on online applications. Network. Reach out directly to hiring managers. Consider contract work or freelancing.
Third, focus on skills development. The demand for AI-related skills is huge. Even if you're not becoming an AI engineer, understanding how AI impacts your field is valuable.
And for hiring managers listening, what can they do differently?
Be human, provide feedback, respond to applications, treat candidates like people, not data points.
Question your requirements. Do you really need 10 years of experience, or would 5 years plus learning ability work? Are you screening for skills or credentials?
Mike, after diving into this mess what's your biggest takeaway?
That we've created a system that serves no one well. Job seekers are frustrated, hiring managers are overwhelmed, and companies aren't getting the talent they need. Something has to change.
I keep coming back to the human cost. Behind every rejected application is a real person with bills to pay and dreams to pursue. We can't lose sight of that humanity.
The technology isn't the problem, it's how we're using it. AI could make hiring more efficient and fair, but only if we design it with human values in mind.
To everyone listening who's struggling in this market, your frustration is valid, your skills have value, and this situation won't last forever. Keep fighting, keep learning, and keep supporting each other.
That's all for today's episode of MEG Conflicts, Real Dev Talks.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we tackle conflicts just like in coding, step by step, episode by episode. See you in the next one.